I had a very important question after watching this film. When you go in for a movie expecting nothing and it slightly surprises you, do you give it credit because of the leap it took from you expecting nothing and it to be slightly good, or is it actually good? With minimal hype and most audiences not even having an idea of its release, Yodha starring Sidharth Malhotra, Rashii Khanna and DIsha Patani released in theatres today. A movie that has been in limbo for its release date ever since December of last year. The film, directed by Sagar Ambre and Pushkar Ojha, focuses on Arun Katyal, played by Sidharth Malhotra, who wants to follow his father's footsteps and dedicate his life for the country by being an active part of the task force his father headed at its inception. The Yodha task force that recruits the best soldiers from the three wings of the armed forces and is assigned various tasks for the interest of national security. How Arun constantly is in conflict with overriding orders from those in positions of power, finds himself in a hijacking situation which inadvertently tests his prowess as a soldier and loyalties towards his nation, forms the basic premise of this film. I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible because shockingly the film developed its plot in ways that I did not expect, actually making me appreciate how the makers kept so much at bay before its release to actually be experienced in theatres. Raashii plays Priyamvada Katyal, Arun's wife, and a prominent part of the PMO, while Disha plays a flight attendant on the plane hijacked. Here's me telling you the good and bad aspects of the film so that you guys can ultimately decide whether to watch Yodha in theatres or not. Lack of emotional resonance and forced callbacks. My biggest gripe with the film is the awkward nature with which it presents its emotional quotient. This is specifically in regards to Arun's family dynamic, his motivation to join the task force and his relationship with his wife. The attempt by the makers for us to care about these elements is so half-baked that you wish it stuck to just being a high-octane action thriller versus attempting a little bit of everything. The context of his father's influence, played by Ronit Roy, is brushed off like a highlight, and you move on so fast that you barely understand the impact Arun's father had on him. The relationship between Sidharth and Raashii is just established through a song called Tere Sang Ishq Hua, but you don't really have an understanding of why or how they fell in love. It's simply understood by a song that is essentially a montage. More importantly, whenever the film seems to be a dedication to SRK, this is exactly where I had to roll my eyes because it doesn't spend ample time in really making us care about this romantic relationship. So the callbacks to बड़े बड़े शहरों में ऐसी छोटी बातें होते रहती हैं and I don't like jokes, I don't like you just fall flat honestly. Seamless action set pieces and production design. I have constantly spoken about Sidharth Malhotra's physical capability and his prowess as an action star often goes unnoticed. This is especially regarding how the director gets free rein in maximizing the potential of long shots with him, as he is physically agile and nimble, and this is something that I believe was hugely ignored in movies like Ek Villain and A Gentleman, where Sidharth really did shine in combat sequences. Similarly, Yodha presents several action set pieces, especially those involving hand-to-hand combat, when characters are in close proximity with one another. Sidharth masterfully executes the choreography, from the ambush scene that takes place in the first sequence as they have a mission in the Indo-Bangladesh border, the several sequences in the plane, and finally some of the set pieces in Jinnah Hall in the climax. You can genuinely see the benefits of Sidharth's lean frame and what it allows him to easily execute. There is also a brilliant sequence that made me appreciate the production design of the film, and it occurs when the plane loses control and does a 360, consequently leading to utter chaos with the passengers as they find themselves toppling in several directions. This is masterfully choreographed and will make you really appreciate the filmmaking, engrossing you while mostly being set in one location. The attempt at mass. The film's biggest strength is how it completely shocked me with its tonality. From the lukewarm marketing snippets that were put out there, I really dismissed this film to be a generic mass action film. And what Yodha gets mostly right is that it actually is a carefully designed action thriller whose main focus is the screenplay with several twists and turns. This is something that wasn't communicated through the film's marketing, and when the makers stick to the treatment of the film being understated, stylized and exhilarating, it actually succeeds sucks you in with its storytelling. The problem with the film, however, which acts as a huge stumbling block, is when it attempts mass with dialogue bazi. This is where the cringe tonality of the film gets slightly distracting, because it wants to be a little bit of everything. So Sidharth mid-fight sequences having dialogues like "Main rahun ya na rahun, desh hamesha rahega," while he appears from the smoke, or putting his knee on the antagonist only to say "Is picture ka hero main hu," makes you really feel if the film just stuck its landing of the genre it wanted to be, I wouldn't really be jotting down a lot of these underwhelming aspects. The climax has to be the most ludicrous portion of the film that made me miss the tonality of how the film started. Shocking screenplay. As I previously said, I had dismissed the film from the marketing snippets as any other generic action film, in which Sidharth Malhotra will save the day by neutralizing terrorists in a hijacked plane. But what I loved was that as the screenplay progresses, it genuinely throws some curveballs at you, shocking you as the film takes the shape of a thriller with many surprises up its kitty. There are loyalties that often switch and allies who you might presume to be harmless, and this is the brilliance of the writing, especially till the interval point, which leaves you with more questions than answers. While I am still not a fan of the abrupt tonality of the film shifting between mass dialogue bazi and just being a slick, exhilarating thriller, I must commend the screenplay that in several instances did surprise me. This also makes me commend the makers for keeping several of these elements hidden at a time where so much gets spilled even before its release. Performances. Most of the performances by the cast are convincing and apt, especially for the circumstances at play. I must be honest, the film commands more for the actors to be physically on their A game versus to do something spectacular emotionally. Sidharth isn't doing anything out of the ordinary, but I must commend his physical devotion to the role, especially shining in the several combat sequences. Raashii tugging between the personal and professional is solid, for the most part, but nothing more than a balancing act between her husband and the nation. DIsha really does a fine job in the film and gets to show off some of her physical capabilities as an action star, which makes me also think that Bollywood producers should really consider her for action roles, because it is insane of what she is capable of. I can't really speak about some of the surprise appearances, as the film is essentially a thriller with several twists as you tag along this journey, but I must say, the antagonists also pack a fair punch in the film to act as the force that Sidharth has to deal with. Even though it was slightly frustrating for me how the filmmakers let go of the brilliant progress the film was making, while it was unabashedly a carefully crafted action thriller, especially when it is adamant to hand over Sidharth mass dialogues, I must say, I literally expected nothing from this film, only to be impressed by the several surprises it had up its sleeve and to see some really intricately choreographed action set pieces. According to me, it's admirable but not extraordinary, and while that might be debatable in the comments, I think we can unanimously agree on one thing, that the Pakistan conflict in films and the antagonist dreams of Kashmir has reached a point of exhaustion. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below what you thought about Yodha. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.